So where does all this geographic information come from? Now, I can't cover all of the particulars of, the many data sources that are out there in one short video. But what I can do is just help you understand kind of what's available to you right now. So the map you're looking at in front of you probably looks very familiar. You probably have it on your phone and use it for navigation. But as we jump into this, I can zoom in and it allows me to go in, and again, I can zoom in here to West Lafayette, and what I can tell you, if you're hanging out down here in the Hort building, come up to State Street, go down the hill, take a left at McDonald's, you can come up North River Road. You can follow North River Road as it becomes Highway 43 and then eventually Highway 421. And you can actually go about an hour and 15-minute drive north of campus, and what you'll find is the Jasper-Pulaski State Fish and Wildlife Area. So this is the site that we were looking at before. And again, this is set up in a fairly standard topographic view, and you can actually see that hill shade already exists here. So the map's available to us to use. But one of the things that landscape architects, we often need various types of base maps, right? So we might be able to work off of this, but it's got somebody else's labeling on it. It's probably at the wrong scale for what we're trying to do. So maybe instead, we could actually go ahead and try out a different type of map. Maybe that's a really simple map. Perhaps it's actually going, if you like really dark maps, and again, this one got really dark really fast, we can jump in and try some of those out. Maybe I can actually see navigation in dark mode. Maybe it looks a little bit better. But again, gives you some different options. They play around with it a little bit. Colored pencil map. I'm not sure that looks quite like a colored pencil, but it's something. And you can actually go ahead and pull up some additional maps, like some of the USGS topographic maps that are out there and available. Again, this is fantastic, but those are just base maps, right? And so I'm actually going to go back up here to topographic, and I'm going to go ahead and flip that off. The rest of the information we're really looking for, and really the future that Esri sees for ArcGIS platforms, is online digital data storage. So sharing our data digitally. That can be with the world, it could be within our organization, or just within our team, or just for ourselves. And so how they've made this possible is that if you go ahead here in ArcGIS Online, again, remember this is just a viewer, this is not where we can edit data. But here in ArcGIS Online, what you can actually do, so you can just click on Add a Layer, and I can go ahead and search for Indiana. And underneath my content, there's a little bit that I've stored and used in other projects. But if I actually jump down here to ArcGIS Online, what you're going to see is that there's lots of different information that's available. And one of the things that I find incredibly useful as I'm using ArcGIS Pro, the desktop version of all of this, is that when I'm first looking for data, ArcGIS Online is better for going and searching out these layers. And then you can, we can ideally go ahead and grab the layer name and copy it, or go ahead and download this from a website to bring it into our mapping environment. But it allows you really quickly to do things like turn on parcel boundaries. So here's the ownership around Jasper-Pulaski Fish and Wildlife Area. Or, as I showed you before, the wetlands information. Right? It's all here. We can click on it. We can actually go ahead and click into those features, and we can learn more about these different elements here in this environment. But there's lots of places where this information comes from. And I actually need to go ahead and jump back out here. One of them is actually called Geospatial Data Gateway. And so I'm just going to Google that for you so you can follow along with the process. But what this is this is a website that is maintained by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, that allows us to go in and get federally generated spatial data and use it in our projects. And so, as long as I don't bounce right past Indiana, there we go, Indiana. And so I can actually either get that by state for the entire state, or I can order it through a couple of other, but we tend to either grab it by state, or if I was just looking for Jasper County, I can grab it by Jasper County. Once I've got that, I go ahead and hit this information. What it actually drops me into is it gives me some basic information about the census, provides me with some climate data, talks about lands that, get data and download it, lands that have been preserved for wildlife habitat. You can also get elevation data sets here, place names, important locations, And you get down to water and watersheds and land cover information. These are different aerial photographs that we can actually bring down and use in our projects, and then soils information. Before I go too much further on soils, I want to remind you of a resource that's out there for you, and it's called Web Soil Survey. And Web Soil Survey is another website that's been developed by the Natural Resource Conservation Service. And what it is, again, here I'm back in Jasper-Pulaski State Fish and Wildlife Area, is that this website allows you to really quickly be able to come in and draw an area of interest. So if I were working on this piece of the preserve down here, it allows you to go ahead and just click in, draw an area of interest, create a soil map for that area of interest. They'll go ahead and reflect the different soil types that are present within this location. And then above and beyond that, then you can go ahead and do things like go and look up and see like dwellings. And so usually the one that I use is dwellings with basement, because that would be the most restrictive condition. And I go ahead and click on view ratings, and what you're going to find is that within this site, red is bad. Don't put buildings in those locations. The soils will not support them. The long-term sustainability of that structure would be in jeopardy. But I do have some high, this is, you could bring in topography and see it here. We have a bit of higher ground that actually pops in, and along that higher ground is a ridge of different soil types that is actually very buildable and gives us some indication of where we could construct something on this site. Again, this is where this information comes from. This is where it lives. This is the most useful thing that we can do as landscape architects. We're asked to be generalists, which means that we have to know a lot about, a wide range of different things. GIS is here to help you. It's here to put the research and the databases that have been created by other sites and help us use that information. Again, I'm going to go ahead and click to one other place here. This is a website called Indiana Map, and Indiana Map is a website that's in transition. What I mean by that is that for years this has been my go-to source for a GIS atlas for information, spatial data for the state of Indiana. It still is, but it is in transition, and that transition is actually caused by this change from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro, the new desktop software. And what I mean by that is that Esri, and now the state of Indiana, IU and Indiana State universities as well, that maintain this website have actually gone to online data storage within the Esri environment. And so what that means is you can still come to indianamap.org and anyone, you don't have to have a GIS an ArcGIS online account, but anyone can come here and go look at the data. And you can come in and search data. And so if you want data about the environment, what information is out there? Well, here are all the different layers of information that are out there. And you can actually come in and we can download these, save them to our server, and then actually bring them in and drop them into ArcGIS Pro, where we can display, analyze, and export that data. So let's just jump into ArcGIS Pro. So I've opened a new ArcGIS Pro project. The tutorial that Esri that I'm going to have you do or show you in the next video that you're going to do through Esri on ArcGIS Pro is going to walk you through all of these steps. So don't worry if this feels overwhelming. Learning GIS in general is it's a series of steps of getting comfortable with the fact that this is a very challenging way of looking at and studying data that is trying to be everything to everyone. It doesn't always work, and it can get really complicated. Don't be overwhelmed by it. At the end of the day, what we as landscape architects most often need is we need to get access to that data, and we need to display it, and then we need to get it out of ArcGIS so that we can use it in graphics to help us then capture our ideas on top of those graphics and on top of those maps. That's all we're aiming for. And so again, here we are in Indiana. In order to add data, one way that I can add data is that if I have any data stored, I can actually go grab it from my folder, bring it back, and drop it in. A minute ago, I mentioned this ArcGIS Online and also the Living Atlas, which is another portal. This is also a place where you can share information within your firm or within an organization. You can also share it with a group of people, or you can also just keep information for yourself. And so basically, these are some shortcuts to get to that. But ArcGIS Online is a public platform that basically anybody can dump information into, and that is amazing and also frustrating. And that's where going and using ArcGIS Online, using Indiana Map, the website, to go and find the data layer that you want so that you can come in here and search is really important. Because even if I just type in Indiana, what you're going to see is that lots and lots of different things pop up. Some of those are actually populated by Indiana Map. That can be really beneficial. But what is restricted sites institutional controls? I don't know. And so the easiest way for me to find out is actually to go ahead and click on that, and it will actually take me out to these layers, and then it will actually kick me back into the ArcGIS Online environment where it can show me and where I can go and explore these layers and what's in them. And so again, that's not what I'm trying to do here in this video today. I just wanted you to show you that this is out there. And again, the upside of where things are moving, this new online environment where we're all trying to share data with one another, is that in an ideal world, when we need information that is specific to things like Indiana parks, and so that's something I'm going to go ahead and add to this. And if I need information that is specific to Indiana parks, hopefully when I search for it, something will actually pop up that will help me locate it. I'm going to go ahead and hit pause real quick and make sure I can find some data. Again, this is where going and viewing your data and finding your data source or downloading it all yourself in advance makes this so much easier. But this is where Esri has decided to move, is to really kind of push the shared environment. And again, there may be some benefits long term. Indian GIS actually has one, and so this is the Indianapolis GIS department. And so I can go ahead and click on that, and it'll drop me in. And what it's going to give me, it's going to give me the most recent up-to-date information that's been published by the Indianapolis GIS department to Esri Online. And that can be really beneficial because now suddenly I've got access to all this information. I can go in and click on and get access to the name of each one of these parks. Incredibly useful to have access to it. But we're going through a period of transition. And with that period of transition is going to come some frustration. And so understand that that's part of this, answering this question of where does this data come from, is that we're all trying to figure out how best to share information with one another. And sometimes we've got to do some, old-fashioned pick up the phone and call somebody and ask them for their data and see if we can't get it sent to us in a format that we can bring into our map.